Yeah, what up? What up? What up? Trying to figure out how to get this off. Yeah, we are not playing that right now. Let me just hide that. All right, what up? What up? What up? Welcome back. Welcome back. Boom. Yes, yes, y'all. It's me. Yeah, Big Chaz back in the building. Man, it's been so long. I haven't even pulled up the soundboard on y'all, man. I might have to do that today just to get it cracking. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely. Yeah. So, today is a good day. Yeah, we're gonna be doing something a little bit new, a little bit different for y'all, man. Yeah. Basically, I just had technical difficulties and my stream crashed. Okay, so my bad, y'all. My bad, y'all. Yep. So yeah, we back. We are back. We are back. So I do appreciate everybody for being here. And and dealing with the technical difficulties from about 10 minutes ago. But yeah, so today we're going to be reading from Daniel Goleman's Focus, the Hidden Driver of Excellence. I do see some of you guys in the chat, so no disrespect, but I will not be commenting back during this live. I'm going to be hyper focused on the live stream, or I'm sorry, on the read as best I can. But things are good. The pilot training is going good. I did start my ground school. I'll be on my third week this week, and then I have college in the fall. I already got signed up, full time student, um, as well as committed to my 12-month fitness class. So that's a whole another separate thing that I got going on. But I do appreciate y'all, and it does mean the world to me that you guys are here. And if you guys are watching the playback, we basically are going to start this at 3 minutes. Okay, 3 minutes on the dot. Yeah, yeah, yeah. What up, y'all? What up, y'all? Yeah, appreciate the gifts. All right, let me see if I can let me just pin this. Boom. So that way there's no sadness. You know what I'm saying? Let me start a poll. Boom. Start the poll. Boom. All right, y'all. So let's see how long we've been back live. Whew. All right, man. Yeah. So, anyways, like I said, I do appreciate everybody being in here. I hope you guys appreciate the new setup. I'm back basically in the stew. Some of these were being read outdoors, some of these were being read at night. But, anyways, like I said, we're gonna start. We got everything we need. Handy dandy notebook. We got our book lined up, pen, pad. Got a little mango ginger snack just in case your boy throat get crazy. Pause. So yeah, let's go ahead and get after it, man. Let's go ahead and get right into it. Let's see if I can let me just do this because I haven't done this in a while. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Yep. Yeah. You hear it. You hear it. Yeah. All right, man. Daniel Goleman's Focus, the Empathy Triad, super sensitive. Okay, sorry. The empathy triad. Okay. Super sensitive reading of emotional signals represents a zenith of cognitive empathy, one of three varieties of a ability to focus on what other people experience. The variety of empathy lets us take other people's perspective, comprehend their mental state, and at the same time manage our own emotions while taking stock of theirs. This can be top down mental operations. These can be top down operations. And if you watch the previous videos, we talked about top down circuitry and bottom up circuitry. Bottom up is more primitive, it's more instinctive, whereas the top down prefrontal cortex evolved over time. It's a little bit slower in its reactions, but yeah. Anywho, in contrast, with emotional empathy, we join the other person in feeling along with him or her. Our bodies resonate. Hold on, I'm just gonna type this real quick. I'm just gonna put if you can hear me. If you can Hear me type 1. I want to make sure I'm not wasting my time. Anyways, all right. In contrast, with emotional empathy, we join the other person in feeling along with him or her. Our bodies resonate in whatever key of joy or sorrow that person may be going through. Such attunement tends to occur through automatic, spontaneous, and bottom up circuits, as I just alluded to. While cognitive and emotional empathy means we recognize what another person thinks and resonate with their feelings, it does not necessarily lead to sympathy, concern for others' welfare. The third variety, empathic concern, it goes further, leading us to care about them, mobilizing us to help if need be. This compassionate attitude builds on bottom up primal systems for caring and attachment deep down in the brain. Though these mix with more reflective top down circuits that evaluate how much we value their well being. Our circuitry for empathy was designed for face to face moments. Today, working together online poses special challenges for empathy. Let me see if y'all can see that. Take, for example, that familiar moment in a meeting when everyone has reached a tacit consensus and one person then articulates aloud what everyone already knows but has not said. Okay, then we all agree on this. Heads nod. But coming to such consensus in an online text based discussion requires flying blind. Without relying on the continuous cascade of nonverbal messages that in a real meeting let someone announce aloud the as yet unspoken agreement. We can base our readings of others only on what they have to say. Beyond that, there's reading between the lines. Online, we rely on cognitive empathy, the variety of mind reading that lets us infer what's going on in someone else's mind. Cognitive empathy gives us the ability to understand another person's ways of seeing and of thinking. Seeing through the eyes of others and thinking along their lines it helps you choose language that fits their understanding. I'm going to read that again. So seeing through the eyes of others and thinking along their lines help you choose language that fits their way of understanding. This ability, as cognitive scientists put it, demands additional computational mechanisms. We need to think about feelings. Justine Cassell's researchers routinely employ a variety of empathy in their work. An inquisitive nature, which predisposes us to learn from everybody, feeds our cognitive empathy, amplifying our understanding of other people's worlds. What's going on here? One successful executive who exemplifies this attitude put it in this way. I've always just wanted to learn everything to understand anybody I was around. It's a good trait. Why they thought what they did, why they did what they did, what worked for them and what didn't work. The earliest roots in life of such perspective taking trace to the ways infants learn the basic building blocks of emotional life, such as how their own states differ from other people's and how people react to feelings they express. This most basic emotional understanding marks the first time an infant can take another person's, oh, we flipping in here, bro. Another person's point of view. Let me see if I can square this up for y'all. I might even bring this down a little bit just so y'all can get some of the, I mean, we got the hand gestures going, you know what I'm saying? Not trying to distract too much, but we in here. So let me go back. The most basic emotional understanding marks the first time an infant can take another person's point of view, entertain several perspectives, and share meaning with people, with other people. By age 2 or 3, toddlers can put words to feelings and name a face as happy or sad. A year or so later, kids realize that how another person perceives events will determine how the other child will react. By adolescence, another aspect, accurately reading a person's feelings gets stronger, paving the way for smoother social interactions. Tanya Singer, director of the Social Neuroscience Department at Max Planck Institute of Human Cognitive and Brain Sciences in Leipzig, Germany, has studied empathy and self awareness in. I had this word before and I did not look it up. All right, man. Hold on, man. Hold on, bro. Okay. All right, here we go. The word is Alex. Hold on, bro. We got it. We got it in the screen. Yeah, man. Y'all see we taking notes. It's like Alex. Hold on, bro. What is it? It's right here. It's like elixir. Elixir. Yes. Alexithymics. Elixir. You know the beauty of doing this on the desktop though is that your boy can look it up live. Can I get some love one time? You know. Now we're not gonna do this for all the words, but I'm gonna do it for this one. Definition. Okay, can I get this on Google? Bro, you put that on Bing, they over here. Would you like some Microsoft rewards? Like, bro, I just want the damn definition. All right, let's see. Can I get a pronunciation one time? Alexithymia. 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 Literally, no words for emotions, a psychological trait characterized by difficulty experiencing, identifying, and describing one's own emotions. Alexithymia. Yeah. All right, cool. All right, let's get back to it. Sit down and shut up. All right, let's get back to it. Anyways, we won't be doing that through the duration of the live stream, but we will, we definitely will ensure that we get all words annotated just for future reference. But yeah, appreciate it. Appreciate it. Thank you for the one. But yeah, like I said, I'm not going to be commenting too much, you know what I'm saying? But I appreciate y'all. Where was I? She has studied, or I'm sorry, Max. Sir Max has studied, and we got alarms going off. Max has basically studied empathy, self awareness, and alexithymia. People who have great difficulty understanding their own feelings and putting them into words. You need to understand your own feelings to understand the feelings of others. How true is that, she says. The executive circuits that allow us to think about our own thoughts and feelings let us apply the same reasoning to other people's minds. Wow. The more well thought out you are, the more or the higher the probability of your empathy towards others. The ration of, or the rational mind. Here we go. Um, Theory of mind, the understanding that other people have their own feelings, desires, and motives lets us reason about what someone else might be thinking and wanting. Such cognitive empathy shares circuitry with executive attention. It first blooms around the years between 2 and 5 and continues to develop through the teen years. That is why it is so important to be present in your little ones' lives and not be their friend, but rather their guidance. Maybe not so much of their disciplinarian, but you know, man. Okay. Emotional, I'm sorry, empathy run amok. A muscle bound inmate in a New Mexico prison was being interviewed by a psychology student. The inmate was so dangerous that the office was equipped with a button. Hold on, y'all. You know what I'm saying, do what we do, you know what I'm saying? Because we got buttons, bruh. Hold on now. Hold on, let me just, you know what I'm saying? So they had a button for that boy. Oh my God. Okay, they had one that was like, hey man, this boy wildin'. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to me one time. You guys like this. If you like the soundboard being included in the read along, it's giving it some life. It's giving it some life. Just slap the like one time. It's all good. If not, I'm just gonna do this offline. I'm still gonna do it. Anyway, so the inmate was so dangerous that the office was equipped with a button for the interviewer to press if things got out of control. The inmate told the psychology student in great detail the gruesome way he killed his girlfriend, but did so in such a charming fashion that the student found it difficult not to laugh along with him. Stockholm Syndrome. Look it up if you don't understand it. Feeling empathetic while held captive. About a third of professionals whose job requires they interview criminal sociopaths, like the murderer, report feeling that their skin crawl, a creepy sensation that some think signifies the triggering of a primitive defensive empathy. The darker side of cognitive empathy emerges when someone uses it to spot weakness in others and so takes advantage of them, hence Machiavellianism. This strategy typifies sociopaths who use their cognitive empathy to manipulate. They feel no anxiety, and so the threat of a punishment does not deter them. Hey man, evil is out here, man. I wouldn't say evil, but I mean, there's some sick people out here, man. The classic work on sociopaths, they were known as psychopaths back then. The book 19 the 1941 book The Mask of Sanity by Hervey M. Cleckley describes them as concealing an irresponsible personality behind a perfect mimicry of normal emotion, fine intelligence, and social responsibility. The irresponsible part emerges in a history of pathological lying, living off others as a parasite, and the like. Tellingly, other indicators signal deficits in attention, such as bored distractibility, poor impulse control, and a lack of emotional empathy or of sympathy for others in distress. I'm gonna take a quick side note. I would recommend annotating the past 20 seconds, just in case you have someone in your life that might exhibit these behaviors. Moving on. Sociopathy, 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 sociopathy. I don't know how to say that. Is thought to occur in about 1% of the population. If so, the working world harbors millions of what clinicians called successful sociopaths. Bernie Madoff, once in jail, exemplifies an unsuccessful one. Sociopaths, like their close cousins, Machiavellian personalities, I said that, manipulative. They prey on others' emotions. You know what I'm saying? Oh, you look happy right now. Let me get at you. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, Machiavellian personalities are able to read others' emotions, but register facial expressions in a different part of their brain than the rest of us do. They compartmentalize and, manipulate. Instead of registering emotion in their brain's limbic centers, sociopaths show activity of their frontal areas particularly in language centers. They tell themselves about emotions, but not how, but do not feel them directly. They tell themselves about emotions, but do not feel them directly as other people do. Instead of a normal bottom up emotional reaction, sociopaths feel them top down. This is why you have to go back and read or listen to the previous chapters on this, because the previous chapters on this speak on the more primal bottom up, like the amygdala, the basal ganglia, different parts of the brain, whereas the prefrontal cortex and other circuitry that we evolved to, not everyone's wiring went through perfectly, man. So I think it's really important reading this book, because when you get around certain individuals, or you just like kind of reflect on the people in your life, you're like, how did they not get it? How did they not? This is strikingly true for fear. Sociopaths seem to have no apprehension whatever about the punishment their crimes will bring. One theory, they suffer a particular lack in cognitive control for impulse, what amounts to an attention deficit that leaves them focusing on the thrill at hand and blinds them to the consequences of what they do. Emotional empathy. I feel your pain. Let me slide this for y'all. This machine can save lives and add trumpets. It features a hospital setting where a wheeled platform holds a video monitor and keyboard with a shelf for blood pressure cuffs and the like. I encountered that very life-saving apparatus when I had a visit with a physician the other day. As I sat on an exam table to have my blood pressure read, the platform was tucked away to my right and behind me. The nurse stood by my side, facing that video monitor, but not me. As she took my readings, she read mechanically through a list of health status questions from a screen, typing in my answers. Our eyes never met for a moment. Our eyes never met, save for a moment as she left the room and said, rather ironically considering, "Nice to see you." It would have been nice to see her if we had the opportunity. The lack of eye contact makes an encounter anonymous, draining it of emotional connection. The paucity, the what? Bro, hold on, man. Where's my pen at? Oh, it's over here. I have one here. I also have one. The paucity. The paucity. What? Okay, we're going to get back to this. Paucity. The paucity, bro. What does that even mean? The paucity, big dog? Don't know what that means. All right, let's get back to it. Okay, let's get back to it. The paucity of warmth meant I or she may as well have been a cyborg. Oh, some more, maybe paucity is like the lack thereof. I'm not alone. Studies in medical schools find that if a doctor looks you in the eyes, nods as she listens, touches you gently if you are in pain, and asks, for example, if you're warm enough on the exam table, she gets high patient ratings. If she mainly looks at her clipboard or computer screen, the ratings are low. While the nurse may have had some cognitive empathy for me, there was little chance of her to tune in to my feelings. Emotional empathy, sensing what other people feel and caring about them, has ancient roots in evolution. We share this circuitry with other mammals who, like us, need a keen attention to an infant's signal of distress. Emotional empathy operates bottom up. Much of the neural wiring for directing for directly sensing the feelings of others lie beneath the cortex in ancient parts of the brain that think fast but not deeply. Very primitive. These circuits tune us in by arousing in our body, in our own body, the emotional state picked up in the other person. Take listening to a gripping story. Brain studies show that when people listen to someone telling a story, the brain of the listeners become intimately coupled with that of the storyteller. The listener's brain patterns echo through the storyteller with precision, though lagging by 1 or 2 seconds. The more overlap in the neural coupling of the two brains, the better the listener's understanding of the story. And the brains of those with the very best understanding, who are fully focused and comprehend most, do something surprising. Certain patterns of the brain's activities anticipate that of the storyteller by a second or two. The ingredients of rapport begin with total shared focus between two people, which leads to an unconscious physical synchrony, which in turn generates good feelings. Such a shared focus with the teacher puts a child's brain in the best mode for learning. Any teacher who has struggled to get a class to pay attention knows that once everyone quiets down and focuses, the students can start to comprehend the lesson in history or math. The circuits of emotional empathy begin to operate in early infancy, giving a primal taste of resonance between ourselves and someone else. In the brain's development, we are wired to feel another's joy, pain before we can even think about it. The mirror neuron, as mentioned in chapter 1, please go back and listen to it. The mirror neuron system, a part of the wiring for this resonance, but by no means the only wiring, kicks in as early as 6 months. That is insane. So have you ever seen somebody like on a bike eat it? You know what I'm saying? You ever seen somebody like getting ready to hurt themselves, and before they even do it, your body like braces and you tense and you feel it? That's what we're speaking on. The mirror neural system. The mirror neuron system. Empathy. Let's see. Is it square for y'all? We up here, y'all. Empathy depends on a muscle of attention to tune in to others' feelings. Empathy depends on a muscle of attention. To tune into others' feelings require we pick up the facial, vocal, and other signals of their emotion. The anterior cingulate, a part of attention network, tunes us to someone else's distress by tapping our own amygdala, which resonates with that of distress. All right, I'm going to speak on this. I learned this. Shout out to a good friend. Shout out to Mr. Chris one time. But he taught us that the brain is nothing more than like this. Same wrinkles, same shape. But when you have that flight or fight response, your brain just pops. And then that's whenever you only have these few choices to decide from. It's kind of like popping a can. And that's how the brain deals with stress. Anyways, and then it eventually cools down. It's like a heat overload, thermal overload, I would say. So in this sense, emotional empathy is embodied. We actually feel in our physiology what's going on in another person's body. When volunteers had their brains imaged while they watched another person get a painful shock, their own pain circuitry lit up in what amounts to a neural simulation of the other person's suffering. We were just talking about that, bro. Yikes. Tanya Singer has found that we empathize with others' pains via the anterior insula, the same area that we use to sense how our own pain feels. So we first sense another person's emotions with ourselves as our brain applies to the other person's feelings the identical system used to read our own feelings states. Empathy builds on our capacity for sensing visceral feelings within our own body. So does synchrony, the nonverbal meshing of how we move and what we do, signals an interaction in rapport. So does synchrony, the nonverbal meshing of how we move and what we do that signals the interaction in rapport. Okay, make sure we foot stomp that. You see it in jazz musicians who never rehearse exactly what they do, but just seem to know when to take center stage, when to fade into the background. When jazz artists were compared with classical musicians in brain function, they showed more neural indicators of self awareness. As one jazz artist put it, in jazz, you have to tune in to how your body is feeling so you know when to riff. The brain's very design seems to integrate self awareness with empathy by packing the way we pick information about ourselves and about others within the same far flung neural networks. One clever part, as our mirror neurons and the social circuitry recreate in our brain and body what's going on with the other person, our insula summates all that. I'm gonna write down summates, bro, just because I believe I know what that means. Root word sum derived from the Greek term sumai, like you know what I mean. Anyways, but yeah, summates just probably like equates to or piles on. Our insula equates all that or adds all that together. Okay, empathy entails an act of self-awareness. We read other people by tuning in to ourselves. Well, they foot stomping this idea, ain't they? Take, for instance, von Ekonoma neurons, or VENS for short. These unique brain cells, remember, are crucial for self awareness. I think we learned this in chapter 8 or chapter 9 self awareness. But they are situated in areas that activate in moments of anger, grief, love, and lust, as well as tender moments like when a mother hears her baby crying or at the sound of a voice of a loved one. When these circuits tag an event as salient, they direct our focus there. I'm gonna write down salient. I ain't gonna act like I know. You know, in context, sounds good, but what's the real definition? Okay. Okay. These spindly cells allow a super quick connection between the prefrontal cortex and the insula, areas active during both introspection and empathy. These circuits monitor our interpersonal world for what matters to us, doing so super quickly, helping us react on the fly. The brain's basic circuitry for attention interweaves with that. Hold on, y'all. I feel like you boy need to replenish, losing fluid to the brain one time. All right. The brain's basic circuitry for attention interweaves with that for social sensitivity and for understanding other people's experiences and how they see things. In short, for empathy. This social superhighway in the brain lets us know and so reflect on and manage our own emotions and those of others, bro. They are foot stomping the same idea. Okay, let's get it. Empathetic concern. I'm here for you. A woman staggered into her surgeon's waiting room, blood seeping from every visible orifice. Oh my God. Do I have anything on the soundboard for that? Do I have anything for that, bro? You know, I think I might got like a crowd awe. You know what I'm saying? Hold on, bro. She, yeah, man, she sound like she needs some good old healing. Anyways, let me focus. I'm back on this, so it's like, oh, my soundboard. I forgot about that. Anywho, a woman staggered into her surgeon's waiting room, blood seeping from every visible orifice. Ew. Instantly, the doctor and her staff sprung into action to handle the emergency, rushing the woman into a treatment room to staunch. My man said to staunch her bleeding, calling an ambulance and canceling all the appointments of other patients for the remainder of the day. This is an intense story. The patients who had been waiting to see their doctor understood. Of course, this woman's dire need trumped their own. All, that is, save one woman who was indignant because her appointment had been canceled. Outraged, she shouted at the reception, "I took the day off work. How dare you cancel me?" The surgeon who tells me the story says such indifference to suffering and the needs of others has become more prevalent in her practice. It was even the topic of a meeting for all surgeons in her state. The biblical parable of the Good Samaritan tells of a man who stopped to help a stranger who had been beaten and robbed and was lying in pain by the side of the road. Two others had seen the injured man and, fearing danger, had crossed the other side of the road and passed by him. Martin Luther King Jr. observed that those who failed to offer their aid asked themselves the question, if I stop to help this man, what will happen to me? But the Good Samaritan reversed the question. If I do not stop to help this man, what will happen to him? Damn, bro. If people are just tuning in, they're going to be like, my man in here preaching? He in here reading the good gospel? Nah. Nah, man, we just reading, Daniel Goleman's Focus. You know what I'm saying? But anyways, it's good, man. Well-rounded. Very well-rounded subject matter for sure. A lot of nice references. Yeah. Compassion builds on empathy. Say that again. Compassion builds on empathy, which in turn requires a focus on others. If self-absorbed, we simply do not notice other people and can walk by utterly indifferent by their predicament. But once we notice them, we can tune in. Their feelings, we can sense their feelings and their needs and act on our concern. Empathetic concern, which is what you want in your own physician, boss, or spouse, not to mention yourself, has substrates in the neural architecture for parenting. In mammals, this circuitry compels attention and concern towards babies and the young who can't survive without their own parents. Watch where people's eyes go when someone brings an adorable baby into a room and you see the mammalian brain center for caring leap into action. Empathetic concern first emerges early in infancy. When one baby hears another cry, she, too, starts crying. This response is triggered by the amygdala, the brain's radar for danger. Remember, we talked about this. It's like the brain popping off, you dig? Learned that from Mr. Chris. Good stuff. Also, fun fact, whenever any baby is crying or young child is crying, I always tell my kids, up, your friend's talking to you. And I would say this before they were able to actually talk. So, like, your friend's here. They didn't get the joke, but anyways. So the response is triggered by the amygdala, the brain's radar for danger, as well as a site for primal emotions, both negative and positive. One neural theory holds that the amygdala drives bottom up circuitry or bottom up circuits in the brain of the baby who hears the crying to feel the same sadness and upset. Simultaneously, top down circuits release oxytocin, a chemical for caring, which stirs a rudimentary sense of concern and goodwill in the second baby. Some of these things are so ingrained in us through evolution. It is amazing to think where the mind and brain will be millions of years from now if we don't destroy ourselves or we don't regress. Starting with this bottom up circuitry, starting with, again, the basal ganglia, insula, the amygdala, and then developing the prefrontal cortex, developing the top down circuitry is just amazing. Like, once you really understand how primitive we were, I mean, shit, we were barbaric not even too long ago. But when you really think about how the brain just just connections, it just eventually just grew, and it just over time just forced habits, and we weeded out all those that couldn't, cut it. It's just really cool to think where we are today. But it's also really sad when you think about how many people just waste their lives or their opportunities. Anyways, this is not from the book. This is just me. Okay, let's get back to it. Empathetic concerns then, sorry, empathetic concern then is a double-edged feeling. On the one hand, there is implicit discomfort from the direct experience in one person of the distress of the other, combined with the same concern a parent feels towards the child. But we also add to our caring instinct a social equation that weighs how much we value the other person's well being. Getting this bottom up, top down mix right has great implications. Those in whom the stirring of sympathetic feelings becomes too strong can suffer themselves. In the helping professions, this can sometimes lead to emotional exhaustion and compassion fatigue. And I'm just going to insert an example, e.g., being EMS, bro, or being a hospice worker, like grieving with others all day, or seeing like people missing limbs, like, what I mean, before they get care. It's rough, man. Emotional exhaustion and compassion fatigue. And those who protect themselves against sympathetic distress by deadening feelings can lose touch with empathy. The neural road to empathetic concern takes top down management of personal distress, but without numbing us to the pain of others. While volunteers listen to tales of people subjugated to physical pain, brain scans reveal that their own brain centers for experiencing such pain lit up instantly. 60 instantly. Sorry, the internet. If you know, you know. But if the story about physiological suffering, but if the story was about physiological, no, I'm sorry, but if the story was about psychological suffering, it took relatively longer to activate the higher brain centers involved in empathetic concerns and compassion. So, anyways, the difference between psychological and physiological, like the mind versus like the body. Okay. As the research team put it, it takes time to tell the psychological and moral dimensions of a situation. Moral sentiments derive from empathy and moral reflections. Okay, I'm going to start over. Moral sentiments derive from empathy, and moral reflections take thinking and focus. One cost of the frenetic stream, we're writing that down. Come on, man. Frenetic.
Oh, look at my African American over here. Look at him. Are you the greatest? Frenetic. You know what I'm talking about? Okay.
Frenetic. If anybody knows what frenetic is, please write the definition, bro. Let's see if y'all know what frenetic means. I'm going to write it down. We'll get to it later. Okay. One cost of the frenetic stream of distractions we face today, some fear, is an erosion of empathy and compassion. The more distracted we are, the less we can exhibit attunement and caring. Perceiving pain in others reflexively draws our attention. The expression of pain is a crucial biological signal to evoke help. Even rhesus monkeys do not pull a chain to get a banana if that also gives a shock to another rhesus monkey, suggesting perhaps one root of civility. I'm going to write down rhesus monkeys just because what? I just want to see what they look like. But they must be the kind that it's like, they must be disposable. If you can just talk about them in testing. It's 2026. Almost every product is like, this was not used on an animal. But it is what it is. But there are exceptions. For one, pain empathy ends if we don't like the people in pain. Oof. For instance, if we think they have been unfair, or if we see them as part of a group we dislike. Then pain empathy can easily be transformed into its opposite, feeling of Schadenfreude? Bro, what? Schadenfreude? Can y'all see that? What is this? Schadenfreude? I'm not making this word up. That one's definitely going to be ended. That one's going to be added to the list, is what I meant. Added. Schadenfreude? Schadenfreude? I keep saying it, and it's like, it ain't clicking. But apparently this is a term. I would imagine that it comes from Europe. I'm not going to say which country, but I definitely think there was a time where there were some people that would be more apt to do things because of the circumstances that they were placed in. It's either conform or die, brother. A good book to read, Ordinary Men. That would be my reference to Schadenfreude. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, one, Ordinary Men, really good book. When resources are scarce, the need to compete for them can sometimes suppress empathetic concern, and competition is part of life in almost any social group, whether for food, mates, or power, or an appointment with the doctor. Y'all need to keep that in mind. Competition is a part of life in almost any social group. Another exception is understandable. Our brains resonate less with another person's pain when the pain has a good reason, say, getting helpful medical treatment. Finally, where we focus matters. Our emotional empathy grows stronger if we attend to the intensity of the pain and lessens as we look away. Such constraints aside, one of the subtle forms of caring occurs when we simply use our reassuring, loving presence to help calm someone. The mere presence of a loved one, studies show, has an analgesic. I know this term, but I've never actually looked it up. If you ever had any topical pain, this is the word. Analgesic property. I don't even know if I'm saying it right. I'm not even gonna act like not gonna act like I'm saying it right, but analgesic property. So basically, the presence of a loved one has an analgesic property. I'm saying it wrong, but it's okay. Quieting the centers that register the brain. Remarkably, the more empathetic the person who is present with someone in pain, the greater the calming effect. Good to know. The empathy balance. Moving on, y'all. Moving on. The empathy balance. We're down here. This isn't really for y'all to read along. It's just more like, oh, I can kind of see what my man actually reading. All right. Um, when you discover a lump in your breast, unrelatable.
Wrong.
You know what I'm saying? All right. When you discover a lump in your breast, you kind of feel, well, kind of. The patient says, her words tapering off. She looked down, tears forming in her eyes. When did you actually discover the lump? Her doctor asked softly. The patient replies absently, I don't know. It's been a while. The doctor responds, That's so frightening. The patient answers, Well, yeah, sort of. Sort of frightening? The doctor asks. Yeah, says the patient. I guess I'm feeling like my life is over. I see. Worried and sad, too. That's it, doctor. Contrast that exchange with one where, right after the patient gets teary talking about the lump in her breast, the doctor starts running briskly through the checklist of impersonal, detailed clinical questions with not so much a nod toward her teary feelings. The patient in that second encounter will be likely to leave feeling unheard and uncared about. But after that first, more empathetic interaction, the patient, despite having the same amount of distress or lump in breast, I'm inserting that, would feel better, understood, and cared for. That's the one thing about emotions. When you really think about, like, I don't know, like when people get like extremely bad news, if it's not impacting you right now, or you didn't know it like 10 minutes ago, like for instance, they're like, oh, well, you have I don't know, bro. You got like 30 gray hairs in the back of your head that you ain't even seen or something like that, right? It's just like, why do you all of a sudden, you didn't even care 10 minutes ago, but anyways, gray hairs is not a good example, but I don't want to speak on cancer and people and stuff like that, but it's just like, yeah, you'd be all right. I mean, it's not really affecting you. Maybe not. Maybe not my best reference. Let's be honest here. All right. Anyways, let's see. So those two scenarios were used to illustrate this crucial difference in an article for physicians on how to build empathy with their patients. The title of the article features an empathy building phrase. Let me see if I have this right. It argues that taking just a few moments to pay attention to how a patient feels about her illness builds an emotional connection. Not listening as not listening is at the top of the list of complaints patients have about their physicians. For their part, many physicians complain that they are not given the time they need with their patients, and so the human side of their interactions gets shrift, bro. SHR, what? It's like drift, but like shrift at the beginning. SHRIFT. It gets short shrift. Cool. I'll be looking that up. I got like 50 other words I gotta look up. The barrier to human contact rises as physicians mandated to keep digital records, tap notes on a computer keyboard during patient interviews, and so end up communing with their laptop rather than with the patient. That's sad. Yet personal moments with patients, many physicians say, are the most satisfying part of their day. Of course. Such rapport between doctor and patient greatly increases diagnostic accuracy and how the patients comply with their doctor's instructions and enhances patients' satisfaction and loyalty. Empathy, the ability to connect with patients in a deep sense, to listen, to pay attention to, lies at the heart of medical practice. The article tells its medical audience. Orienting to the patient's emotions builds rapport. Tuning out feelings and focusing only on clinical details builds a wall, obviously. Physicians who are sued for malpractice in the United States generally have no more medical errors than those who are not sued. The main difference, research shows, often comes down to the tenure of the doctor patient relationship. Those who are sued, it turns out, have fewer signs of emotional rapport. They have shorter visits with patients, fail to ask about the patient's concerns, or make sure their questions are answered, and have more emotional distance. There's little or no laughter, for example. But attention to patient distresses, but attention to patient's distress may pose a particular challenge for physicians giving excellent technical care. Say when it demands keen concentration on performing a medical procedure perfectly despite the patient's agony. The same network that activates when we see someone in pain also fires when we see anything aversive. That's scary. I should get out of here, is the primal thought. Ordinarily, when people see someone else being pricked with a pin, their brain emits a signal indicating that their own brain centers are echoing the distress. Physicians do not. Their brains are unique in blocking even such automatic response to someone else's pain and discomfort, according to findings from a study by Jean Desity, a professor of psychology and psychiatry at the University of Chicago. This intentional anesthetic seems to deploy the temporal parietal junction, or TPJ for y'all in the back, and regions of the prefrontal cortex, a circuit that boosts concentration by tuning up emotions. The TPJ protects focus by walling off emotions along with other distractions and helps keep a distance between oneself and others. This same neuronal neuronal this same neuronal network kicks into action in any of us when we see a problem and look for a solution. So if you're talking with someone who is upset, this system helps you understand the person's perspective intellectually by shifting from heart to heart emotional rapport to the head to heart connection of cognitive empathy. The TPJ, also known as the temporal parietal junction, the TPJ maneuver insulates the brain from experiencing the wash of emotion. It's the brain's basis for the stereotype of someone with a cool rationality amid emotional turmoil. A shift into the TPJ mode creates a boundary so you're immune to emotional contagion, freeing your brain from being affected by other person's emotions while you're focusing. Sometimes that's a crucial advantage. You can stay calm and concentrated when those around you are falling apart. Sometimes it's not. It also means when you tune out of emotional cues, and so lose the thread of empathy. This dampening down of emotional entrainment has obvious benefits for someone who has to keep focused amid flinch inducing procedures, injections into eyeballs, suturing bloody wounds, scalpels rendering open flesh. I was on the team of the first doctors to respond to the earthquake in Haiti. We were there within the first few days, Dr. Mark Hyman tells me. When we got to the one hospital in Port-au-Prince, Port-au-Prince. I don't know if it's Port AU Prince, so I don't know if there's like a French Creole, you know what I'm saying? I'm not too sure what type of accent to put on that. But anyways, Port-au-Prince, Port-au-Prince, which miraculously had, or which miraculously was largely intact. There was no food, no water, no power, also almost no supplies, and just one or two hospital staff. There were hundreds of dead bodies rotting in the sun, stacked in the hospital morgue, and being loaded into trucks to a mass grave. There were about 1,500 people in the courtyard desperately needing help. Legs hanging by a thread, bodies cut nearly in half. It was traumatic. Yet we immediately got to work and focused on what we could do. When I spoke to Dr. Hyman, he had just returned from several weeks in India and Bhutan, where he again volunteered his medical help to needy patients. The act of service gives you the ability to transcend the pain all around you, Dr. Hyman said. In Haiti, it was hyper real, totally in the moment. It's weird to say, but there was a level of equanimity and calm, even peace and clarity in the midst of all that chaos. Everything else but what we were doing fell away. The TPJ response seems to be acquired rather than innate. Medical students learn this reaction during their socialization into the profession, as they encounter patients during or under duress. The cost of being too empathetic is having upsetting, intrusive thoughts that compete for attention with medical imperatives. If you can't do anything in a situation like that, said Dr. Hyman, about Haiti, you're paralyzed. Sometimes the hurt and pain all around you would break through in moments of fatigue, heat exhaustion, and hunger. But mostly my mind put me in a state where I could function despite the horror. As William Osler, the father of medical residency training, wrote in 1904, a doctor should be so detached that his blood vessels don't constrict and his heart rate remains steady when he sees terrible sights. Osler recommended doctors have the attitude of a detached concern. This could mean simply dampening down emotional empathy, but in practice, it can sometimes lead to blockading empathy entirely. The challenge of a physician in a daily medical practice is to maintain cool focus while staying open to the patient's feelings and experience, and to let patients know she understands and cares. Medical care can fail when patients do not follow what their physician tells them. About half of the medicine doctors prescribe for patients are never taken. The strongest predictor of patients following such instruction is whether they feel the doctor is genuinely concerned about them. Within the same week recently, two deans of major medical schools independently told me they face a dilemma of admitting students. how to spot those who will have empathetic concern for their patients. None other than John DeSetti, the University of Chicago neurobiologist who led the study of TPJ and patient pain, put it this way. I want my doctor to look at me if I'm in pain, to be there, to be present to me, the patient, empathetic, but not too sensitive to treat my pain well. Building empathy. Let's see, are we too far over? Yeah. Building empathy. In one survey, about half of young physicians, about half of young physicians say their empathy for patients declined over the course of their training. Only about a third say it increased. And that lost art of connection persists into their career for many. That gets back to the TPJ, the temporal perennial. What was it? Joint? No. Junction? I should remember this, bro. We're going back, y'all. 1 second. Yeah, I got it right. The temporal parietal junction, not perennial. The temporal parietal junction, the one known to basically mask pain, turn that off. It's good to know. It's good to like maybe even see, like if you dealing with somebody who's like really reserved and detached in a moment, you'd be like, damn, bro, your circuitry is fried, brother. All right, so this gets us back to the TPJ, the temporal parietal junction, the circuitry that dampens down a doctor's physiological reaction to seeing someone in pain and helps her keep calm and clear while treating what's causing it. The buffering from distress probably helps medical residents as they learn to perform painful procedures on patients. But once learned, that dampening down of bodily resonance seems to become automatic, sometimes at the cost of a more general empathy. Yet, compassionate care embodies a core in medicine. Boosting empathy is among the mandated learning objectives for medical schools. While few medical schools specifically taught or teach the art of empathy, now that neuroscience reveals its underlying circuitry, some well designed coaching might just boost this human art. That's the hope of Dr. Helen Rise of Massachusetts General Hospital, the mothership of Harvard Medical School. Dr. Rise, director of the Empathy and Relational Science program there, designed an educational program to enhance empathy for medical residents and interns that significantly improve patients' perception of the physician's empathy. Wow. So they have a course designed to enhance the empathy for medical residents and interns that significantly has improved the patient's perception of the physician's empathy. So they're basically creating a course or a curriculum that will provide more appearing empathetic physicians in clinical trials. That's pretty cool. In the standard mold of medical school, some of this training was purely academic, reviewing the neuroscience of empathy in a language doctors know and respect. A series of videos show the psychological changes, as revealed by their sweat response in doctors and their patients during difficult encounters, like a doctor was arrogant or dismissive, revealing how upset their patients became. And as the videos made graphically clear, when the doctors tuned into their patients with empathy, both doctor and patient became more relaxed and sync biologically. To help the physicians monitor themselves, they learned to focus using deep, diaphragmic. That's a new word. I don't need to write that one down. But giving context, I understand it. Diaphragmic. I am not even saying that right. Diaphragmatic. 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 Yeah, boy. Wake up. Diaphragmatic. I am going to write that down. Diaphragmatic. Okay. Okay. To help the physicians monitor themselves and to watch the interactions using deep diaphragmatic breathing and to watch the interaction from the ceiling rather than being lost in their own thoughts and feelings. So they would monitor themselves basically from a bird's eye view. Suspending our own involvement to observe what's going on gives us a mindful awareness of the interaction without being completely reactive, says Dr. Reese. You can see if your own physiology is charged up or balanced. You can notice what's transpiring in the situation. If the doctor notices she's feeling irritated, for instance, that's a signal that the patient might be bothered too. By being more self aware, Reese points out, you can see what's being projected onto you and what you're projecting onto your patients. Training in picking up nonverbal cues, including reading patients' emotions from their tone of voice, their posture, and to a large extent, their facial expressions. Using the work of emotions expert Paul Ekman, who has identified with precision how the facial muscles move during every major emotion. The program teaches doctors how to recognize patients' fleeting feelings from reading their faces. Oh, wow. Wow. Paul Ekman identified with precision how the facial muscles move during every major emotion. Might be something to look into. For those with the RBFs or the, what I mean, or if you're just like even right now, like watching me and not knowing, how it is that I'm actually feeling or how it is that I'm going about these things. It'd be cool to maybe look back and study my own facial reactions. Anywho, yep. If you act in a compassionate and caring way, when you deliberately look the patient in the eye and notice their emotional expressions, even when you don't feel like it at first, you start to feel more engaged. Dr. Reese told me. This behavioral empathy may begin with going through the motions, but it makes the interaction more connected. That, she adds, can help counter a resident's emotional exhaustion in the emergency room at 2 a.m. when he has to see yet another patient and thinks, why couldn't he wait to come in until later in the morning? A direct lesson in a skill in a specific skill in a direct lesson in a specific skill for being empathetic, reading emotions from the face, proved to be among the most potent parts of the entire training. The more the doctors in training learn to read subtle emotional expressions, the more their actual patients reported feeling empathetic care. Dr. Reese expected the finding. The more you can pick up the subtle cues of emotion, she told, the more empathetic understanding you are able to have. There are no doubt ways an empathetic physician can juggle both the laptop and connecting with patients. For instance, if she can manage to type on a computer and still look up from time to time and maintain meaningful eye contact, or she could share the screen at apt moments with the patient. I'm looking at your lab results here. Let me show you and review them together. Still, many physicians are afraid of getting behind schedule and that these touches will add too much time. We are trying to dispel that myth, says Dr. Reese. Empathy actually saves time in the long run. Boom, boy. And guess what? And just like that, we are done with chapter 10. Yep. If you're watching this recap, you know what I'm saying? Stay tuned for chapter 11. Chapter 10 was probably my longest chapter thus far. Out of all of the chapters that I've had to read, that one was easily a doozy. The next chapter is going to be 9 pages, not too bad. But chapter 10 was how long? Let's see, 98. Yeah, it was almost 20 pages. It was it was like 16 pages. Not too bad, you know. A bit of a slow learner. I'm a bit of a slow reader, but we got it done. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I appreciate you guys for tuning in to today's read. Got a couple words to review as we always do. Zenith, shrift, paucity, summates, analgesic, frenetic, stanch or staunch. I think it's stanch because staunch is more like a set in your way type of stance on things as being staunch. I think stanch is probably how you say it. Alexithymia is whenever you have no words to describe. What was it? It was like you have no emotions. The inability to recognize your emotions, which is like nutty. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of nutty, bro. Salient, and then Schadenfreude was another word. I don't know. It looked like a German term. I'm actually going to look that up, bro. Because I'm like, what? I'm actually going to look it up. Because I'm not going to look it up anytime soon, so.
Schadenfreude.
Schadenfreude. Schadenfreude. Yeah, man. Yep. The experience of pleasure, joy, or self satisfaction that comes from learning or witnessing the troubles and failures or humiliations of another person. A German term. I said it earlier. I called it. I knew it was German, bro. I knew it was German. You know what I'm saying? We knew that. But I want to know, like, when was it trending? You know what I'm saying? When was that word used most? I would imagine. Let's see. Timeline. How do you find the timeline? Usage. How do you find that the usage timeline? You know what I'm saying? You know, sometimes you can. Yeah, man. Anyways, getting off track with that, but yeah, that word was Schadenfreude. You know what I mean? It's a good word.
Schadenfreude.
Schadenfreude. Yeah, good word, man. But anyways, yeah, we're done. We basically knocked this out here on the live stream. I typically don't do this, but it feels good to actually do it this way. Hold on, is it this way? Yeah. I'm gonna just do a quick screenshot. You're gonna hear it in 3, 2. Huh. Here we go. 3, 2, 1, and boom. Yep, that's that screenshot. So that's gonna be the thumbnail for the very first live stream. But anyways, yeah, this was good. We got it done. I think we got it done under 2 hours, or at least under an hour and a half. And so yeah, I'm just glad, man. Glad. But anyways, I appreciate everyone for popping. And you know, at this point, I mean, I could probably do a reaction, but we not doing that right now, bro. Anyways, I appreciate y'all. Peace.